Yeah.
So this is a clip from Amber Rose, and we're going to be going into the stories that we tell. So this is Amber Rose talking about dating and how she perceives things to be in the dating scene, and then we'll dive in.
No one genuinely likes you. They just use you for what they need you for. You know, girls like me are probably the most loneliest nightmare out here.
Really?
It's a nightmare. Yeah. I saw on Instagram the other day, they said LA is the worst place in America for dating. These men nowadays do not take initiative like men do. I really just always had bad luck. Like, I just feel like my whole life has just been bad luck.
Oh, I know,
Amber
right?
Rose, I mean, we love her.
Yeah, so we heard this whole interview, which is over 2 hours, and what really stuck out was that she had more like one-liners like this about the stories she was telling about her experiences.
Yeah, because she desires true love, but the words that she used in this interview illustrate that she really believes in this illusion that good men don't exist,
Or that dating is hard in LA.
or in that men won't love women like her. But again, the purpose of the Level Up is to give you guys actionable tools, because what we know is that the story that we tell about ourselves and our life and our potential literally creates our reality, right? So if we are dealing, and we love science on this show, and so
Quantum physics, yeah.
Quantum physics is our thing. That's the lens that we use for manifestation, and like the quantum theory proves that like there are infinite possibilities, and that is why Hillary and I always talk about the vocabulary that you use. Are you telling an empowering story, right? So if in this example with Amber Rose, she's telling a story which is feeding this illusion that there's no great men out there. She's literally dictating what's showing up in her life. So the shift for this, and also Hillary and I, we work with women on their relationships, right? We help them get men to commit, and we also help them lead and help the men lead, and then help women get harmony if they're already married, right?
Yes, and get women into their soft girl era, because that's what we want.
Yes, 100%.
We just want to channel our creativity and, have
be supported by a great man.
Exactly.
Yes. So I mean, but more on that later. But what we would say is that when we speak to anyone, you know what their reality is like when you can hear the types of things that they say, right? Like what they believe their reality to be. So the shift here is that anyone, if you're listening and you are just stuck in an old story, right?
Or if you're in Byron Bay and you're the story here a lot, what do we hear?
Especially in dating.
Yeah, in dating is that the men have Peter Pan syndrome. They don't want to commit. They have too much choice. Or we hear on the other side from the men, they're like, the women are crazy.
Yeah.
And we're like, actually, we know a lot of people that have found like true deep love here.
Yes.
And so it's about shifting your story.
100%. So here is a 4-step reality shift. This is what we would tell Amber Rose if we met her. We would love that if you're listening, girl. And also for you guys out there. So number 1 is you catch the story that you're telling. So notice what you're actually saying, right? Let's say that you're using this in love. You could be using this story in finances. Maybe you say, I have bad luck.
Yeah. Or I'm broke as a joke.
Yeah. I'm broke as a joke.
Things are too expensive. I can't afford this. I can't afford that.
Catch that story.
Yeah. Catch the story first.
Yes. And then second is you want to pull your power back. You want to reclaim it, because people will say, there's this whole thing around affirmations, right? Like flip what you're saying and then put it into a positive way. But sometimes you can't believe that story. So the first step to pull your power back is literally stop talking.
Shut up.
Yeah. Like when we're not saying don't talk at all, but what we're saying is that when someone asks you about your love life or your ex-husband or like anything like that, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything. Just don't say anything. But what we would say the next step to that is, in pulling your power back, is to go neutral. We call it going neutral. So that is where, instead of saying this disempowering story, you come up with something neutral. So instead of saying, like, there's no good men out here to date, you say something like, I'm in an interesting chapter right now, and I'm just staying open to what unfolds. Right?
Yeah.
So you're not trying to go to that unbelievable, like, men are abundant and I see them everywhere I go. Like, you're not, because you can't actually, that's not true. And
well, you can't, you don't believe that yet. And so it's too big of a leap.
It's too big of a leap. And so what happens, because all of this, basically creating in this reality is all through feeling, right? Because if you are crafting a neutral statement, again, in this love category, right? And you say, you know, I'm excited about dating for the first time, or I'm figuring out what I want. The key to knowing if your neutral statement is working for you is, does it feel expansive? Because what we find is that if you try to jump to too much of a leap with an affirmation, so let's say that your story right now is, I'm broke, and then you try to say, I am wealthy and abundance comes to me in all ways, your body actually contracts. And so it's not about, you want to feel into it, which is why something that's neutral makes you feel expansive.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there's a practical exercise the listener can, you guys that are following along at home, something that you can do.
Yeah. Well, and so the last step with this is you let your life and your reality reorganize itself, because so often when we're, you know, this whole thing about like manifest and do all these things and create your reality, and it implies all of these things that you have to do, when in reality things are always working out for your highest good. They are. That is just the truth. If you look back on things that have happened in your life and your reality, things have always worked out for you. And we believe that you're always guided by your higher self, a higher power, whatever you would like to label it as. And so if the first step is knowing what your story is, and the second step is either stop talking about it or going to something neutral, then the step 3 is just let your life and reality reorganize itself. What you'll find is that once you stop feeding a negative story, once you start like evolving your story to be more expansive, then things start to shift incredibly fast. We have seen this happen too many times in our own life, and we probably don't have time on the segment, but basically those are your 3 tips, because really your story and what you're saying and what you're feeding, like you're literally putting power and energy into an illusion. So yeah, did you have any questions about that, Hil?
Well, no, it's just stop doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and be mindful of the stories that you're telling. So when that friend calls you and says, hey girl, like how's the dating game going, or like how's that job search going,
or like, how are things with your ex?
Yeah. Well, yeah. You know, with your ex-husband, and like I know, you know,
because there's a lot of co-parents out there that are co-parenting with their ex.
Exactly. And so our step 1 for you would just be get conscious of the story. And then if you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all, and watch how things start to shift.